Welcome, everybody, to the National Association of Academies of Science Academy Chat. This is um, not our usual time, but it's Wednesday, May 21st, 2025. Thanks for being here. We usually do them on a Friday, but because of the holiday weekend, we rescheduled this one, and glad to see you all were able to make it with us. We also have them recorded, so if you have colleagues or folks that you want to share this with, these sessions are all on our website at academiesofscience.org. I'm Amanda Fuller. I'm the past president of the National Association of Academies of Science, and I'm the executive director of the Kentucky Academy of Science. And we started these Academy Chats back in 2020. We've been doing them recently about every month, and it's just a great way for us to be building community and learning from our peers, learning with our peers and counterparts in other states. And I'm so thankful for folks who show up and bring us good opportunities to learn. And glad to welcome Karen Resendez today from the Council on Undergraduate Research. Before I turn it over to Karen, I would love to go around and introduce folks, have you all introduce yourselves so that we know who's here and why you showed up today. So I'll start with Donna Girardi, who's currently the president of NAS.
Thanks, Amanda. So that's who I am. I'm also with the Washington State Academy of Sciences. Wear a couple of other hats too. Just looking forward to hearing more about CUR and how we might potentially work together.
And just pass it to the next person.
Excuse me, Joy Carnes.
Hi, Joy Carnes. I'm from the Pennsylvania Academy of Science, and I'm excited to hear more about CUR. I've been to some of the NCUR meetings years ago and haven't been the last couple years, but keep wanting to get back. I'll pass it to Dan Poole.
Hi, Dan Poole from the Utah Academy. Also sit on the national board, and I'm interested in how we can connect more with CUR. We have a UCUR program in Utah, and so I'm just trying to get more information. Thank you. Next is Michael.
Hi, I'm Mike Cohen. I'm a representative at large to NAAS, but I'm on the board of managers of the Washington Academy of Sciences, which represents Washington, D.C. area. And I will pass it to Philip Winchell.
Well, good noon hour, everybody. I'm Philip Winchell. I'm the NAAS archivist, and I am from a currently very cold and dreary Dayton, Ohio. I'm looking forward to learning about CUR and understanding how our American Junior Academy of Science high school students can then be handed off to CUR. I think that's a very natural pattern. Thank you.
Go to Dave.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dave Schultz, president of the New Mexico Academy of Sciences, coming to you today from Sandia National Laboratories. My interest today is particularly because our most important and most frequent activities of our academy are involved in helping students and teachers. And so I thought this would be a great one to sit in on. So thank you.
And let's go to Marius.
Hello, everyone. I'm Marius. I'm from the New Jersey Science Academy, and I'm looking forward to learn about the junior and senior academies, let's say outside of New Jersey, and how you're handling some of the challenges in terms of the organizing the events and let's say gathering more student members.
Excellent. And let's go to Laura. Laura, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
There you are.
Okay. I was on a Zoom earlier this morning reviewing our enrollment numbers, which are not happy. I represent the Illinois State Academy of Science, and I'm also at Illinois College, which is a small liberal arts college, and I administer our student faculty research program. And I have been involved in various aspects of the state academy's research funding programs and our annual meeting.
Wonderful. And I see Jeff hopping on from Connecticut. Welcome, Jeff. We just went through our whole round of introductions. If you are able to, do you want to just say hi and introduce yourself? Maybe you can't hear me. Okay, Jeffrey from Connecticut, hello. We just did introductions.
Hi. Hello,
Hi.
this is Jeffrey, Executive Director of the Connecticut Academy of Science and Engineering.
Great, thank you. Wonderful. Well, I am really delighted to have Karen here from CUR today. As Dave mentioned, most of our academies have most of our services and most of our members in higher education. And so, yes, people are working a lot as teachers and mentors and researchers all at the same time. So appreciate all of the great ideas that you have and resources for us in looking for ways that we might partner as an organization, as our national association, but also how state academies and folks at institutions can partner and benefit from all the great work that you're doing. So Karen, I will turn it over to you. Thank you so much.
Great. So I think maybe I'll introduce myself first, and then I've got some slides that I want to walk through kind of what I'm hoping to do today and tell you a little bit about what we're doing, and then kind of get into some conversation. My name is Karen Resendiz. I am a cell biologist by training. I am a dean at Westminster College, which is about an hour north of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I transitioned in this role about 2 years ago. I was a professor in our biology department for a very long time. In the time I have been through my roles as assistant and associate and full professor, I got involved with the Council on Undergraduate Research pretty early on, being at a small liberal arts college where if I was going to do research, it was going to be with undergraduates because that's the population I have in my laboratory. In doing that, I have kind of gone through different roles working with the biology division of CUR, and then in the last 6-7 years stepped into different leadership roles along the way. I currently serve as our treasurer, and as of June 1st will become president-elect of CUR. And so I've kind of gone through both the leadership trajectory at my own institution and at the Council on Undergraduate Research. And so I'm going to pull up some slides and kind of talk about what I'm hoping we might get out of this and introduce you or make you a little more familiar with what CUR offers. So let's see. So I'm hoping. Can we see my slides? Great. Right, my goal today is that we're engaging together and we're learning a little bit about how we can help each other. And really, it's twofold. I want to spend a little bit of time talking about the programs and the things that we do and the way we are structured so you can understand both how you can engage with our programs and our members, but also are there things that CUR is doing where maybe there's a model here for something that you could be doing either with the national organization or your state organizations where there's programs that we're doing that maybe we can be a resource for you to build something similar for your students or the faculty and teachers that you work with. So first, to kind of just introduce you to CUR as an organization, right? So our mission is to support high-quality mentored undergraduate research. And we acknowledge that undergraduate research is a really broad term that really hopefully covers all the different disciplines, and including the STEM fields, but other areas as well. If you look at how people are engaged in our organization, you can either be an individual member, or we have many institutions that have institutional memberships, and many of the larger state systems have memberships across those state systems. As you can see, we have members across the country, and a little bit later on, I'll talk about the different roles of our mentors and our volunteers so you could see where maybe you might have some local connections that you could benefit from CUR. I want to tell you a little bit about how our organization is structured because I think it helps you to think about where the points of contact with CUR. And so we are kind of split into two branches, kind of our governance structures and our more programmatic structure. So governance is what you would typically think of. Our board, we have a council that represents the different divisions and our relatively small national office staff. If we look at the programmatic piece, we have divisions based on the different disciplines. So a biology division, a chemistry division, a physics division, and a breadth across those different topics. Within those divisions, we have volunteers that are elected into divisional representative roles. So there's 24 division representatives in each of those areas. And they do a lot of programming that supports their members within that specific field. And then there are things that the larger organization, the national office, do that are going to benefit regardless of what division, what discipline you are coming from. And so, like I mentioned before, I spent a good number of years in the biology division. I'm going to talk a little bit about some of their programs because they're some of the things I'm most familiar with, and then have in recent years moved on to board and into our leadership group. So I want to talk through kind of three things: CUR-wide programs, some of the things that our divisions do that might be of interest, and then I just wanted to highlight here some of the additional resources that aren't quite programming things, but that are materials that you could have access to that would maybe be of support. I'm going to provide these slides after effects so that you can get all the links and everything so that you can get to the pieces that you want. So in that additional resources piece, I wanted to highlight a couple things. We know that the current environment, support for research and is changing and shifting, and being a voice for the importance of the work that we do or the work that our students do is really important. And so we have really pushed toward further developing our advocacy tool set, which is important both for working with government organizations, but within your own institution to kind of look for the support for the programs that you're trying to do are. CUR is our set of characteristics of undergraduate research. It recently went through a kind of revisioning after, I think it'd been 10 years since the original publication, looking at what makes strong undergraduate research. And we know the things that are going to make strong undergraduate research in the classroom and outside the classroom really works well, even if you look down at the high school levels as well. And there's several different position statements depending on where your interest may be. One piece is on how research helps with career readiness regardless of the field. Is there enough, some pieces on the support the faculty get to do research with undergraduate students? Again, things that might be translatable up and down kind of the spectrum of the types of students you may be working with. And then we have a journal called SPUR. So that is going to be a good place for if you're looking for information on some more specific topics. It is a peer-reviewed journal looking at all sorts of different resources in undergraduate research. So those are kind of you could go on the website and you could find it and you could read more about it if you were interested. I want to highlight some of the programs as kind of the things I was talking about before. Places where you could get involved or your members could get involved, but also could maybe be models for things you may want to do. And so I'm going to start with those CUR-wide pieces. The program that is kind of the newest for us, it's transitioned out of a past policy event where we had students presenting research on Capitol Hill, an opportunity to speak with politicians. And here we've transformed this into more of a training program for students and for faculty who are interested in advocating for research to different foundations and to their local or state or national representatives. And so this slide kind of highlights kind of what the skill set is meant to be coming out of this program and some of the pieces that you would gain in being involved. And I think here's a good case of this program has evolved into a set of online trainings and workshops throughout the year, and then it culminates in an event in Washington, D.C. That event just happened in April, and so it's a nice model for getting members thinking about how to talk about research and how to advocate for research. So kind of taking that advocacy tool set to another level, and I think it's a huge benefit for both students and faculty who are interested in science policy and kind of talking about advocating in that way. And so it might be something that you know of individuals where this could be a program that they'd be interested in, or it's something we'd be happy to talk about where that model might get us. I assume I'm going to wait and take all questions at the end. I saw something pop in the chat. Okay. If you know someone who might be interested in that program, the next cohort of that, the applications start over the summer. And just wanted to highlight kind of one story from that. So this is a LinkedIn post from a group that participated in the STAR program this past year, and then attended the in-person event in Washington, D.C. So just looking at both what the faculty member here who was involved and some of the students who got involved in this program got out of this experience. I would say if outside of CUR for similar type things, I know some states do at the undergraduate research level. So I know we have a Posters on the Hill type event at the PA Capitol in Pennsylvania. So those types of events happen at that level too. So really thinking about this as taking that type of event where you have a one-off meeting to kind of another level of getting students really prepared to have ongoing conversations moving forward. The other two national pieces I want to talk about are conferences. And so someone mentioned that they had attended NCUR, our National Conference on Undergraduate Research, in the past. And so this is one of our kind of key events through the year. It happens each April, and it's an opportunity for students, regardless of discipline, to present their research and to network. A big part of this has become a resource fair, kind of like you would see at a national conference where you have all the vendors. The vendors here are graduate programs and internship programs that are really trying to recruit students. So it's a really great experience both for undergraduates, especially if you've got students that maybe go into a discipline-specific conference is not quite where they're ready for, but they've got work that presenting at the national level. A lot of institutions take large groups of students to this. But I wanted to highlight a way that I have taken advantage of NCUR recently with high school students in my area. So realizing that we have found that there's an increased interest in students who are either doing some sort of partnership with a local college that might have started some research, or just are starting to think about what research could look like for them at the next level. And so I have worked for the last 8 years with the Seneca Valley School District outside of Pittsburgh. It happens to be my home district where my kids are, but they have built a biotech program in their high school. And one of the things we did this year, because NCUR was in our backyard in Pittsburgh, we took a group of high school students to NCUR. And that was probably one of the most rewarding things I've ever gotten out of NCUR, is to have them see what could be next for them. And so looking at where is this event, and is this something that you could bring high school students to in order to see that experience? There have been a couple other cases where small groups have attended in the past, and I think we're really building toward an opportunity for maybe a path for high school students to more structured come. I kind of worked a little bit out myself here, but be happy to support groups that are thinking about bringing high schoolers to that. So this is the post that you see here is a Instagram post from that group, from the students who attended. Really great experience for all of them. And they were juniors and seniors that were interested in research. And because it happens to be that this program has some other college connections, they connected with some of the faculty they knew from other Pittsburgh schools, but they also went and looked at the research that was happening at the colleges they were interested in. And so it was a way for them to see, here's where I could be next. So if this is something you're interested in, our next year's event is in Richmond. So if you're starting to think about whether there's a possible connection for you there, and if you go on our website, I think it lists out kind of some of the future locations as well. NCUR is our big event for our student members, the people who are doing the research. We also have Connect UR, which happens each June, which is our event that is for those who are supporting the students that are doing research. And for us, that means two things. Our members tend to either be faculty who are heavily involved in research, or most institutions now have offices of undergraduate research. So the directors of those programs is a place for them to interact and network. The benefit of this conference is that we've moved to a modality where we have a couple in-person days, but also virtual days, and you can choose to sign up for both events, just the in-person or just the virtual piece. And so looking at the agenda and schedules for these events, even for the June event, is there some pieces that could be relevant to you or those that you work with? So keeping that event in mind, it's every June, but if you wanted to take a look, I'm pretty sure the agenda is up for what would be happening for at least for the virtual piece in June. So those are the types of things. There's other programs, other things that we do nationally, but those are kind of our three big signature things, and they're probably things you would probably be familiar with. I think the STAR is the most unique program there. If you're looking for resources or supports or connections that are more at a discipline level, our divisions, and this shows you the different division areas that CUR has, do a lot of their own programming. We have these CUR conversations, which are these online dialogues, kind of similar to probably what we're doing right now, centered around some information and a theme and then open conversation. Most of our divisions have award programs. Some of them are for mentorship and success in mentoring students, but several of them also have programs to support small research projects and students attending conferences. And then some of the divisions do some of their own more unique programming. And that was the last piece that I wanted to talk about, is a program that the biology division has been doing for the last several years. So it's called MIRIC, or the Mentoring of Integration of Research into the Classroom. We know that students gain a lot more from authentic research experiences, and we can offer more authentic research experiences, at least at the collegiate level, to a wider range of students if we bring that into the classroom. But doing that is difficult. And I know doing that at the high school level is difficult too. Like I said, I've been partnering with my local school for years, trying to find ways to give students kind of less cookie cutter experiences at the high school level as well. This program is coming from the fact that you can go to a workshop and learn how to build research into your classroom, but having long-term support to help you along the way really makes a huge difference. And so this is a year-long program where you join the MERIC initiative, and it's a mix of people who have a lot of experience, and we kind of see them more as the mentors, and people who are mentees, but I have a feeling there's a good blend in the middle there of people who are trying to do a little bit of both. And it's broken into subgroups. So are you new to this and you want to learn how to, I bring some more authentic research into the work that I am doing? Are you doing it, but you want to change what skills the students are learning? Are you interested in maybe better supporting diverse populations coming through those programs? And so there's some data in here from a recent publication that we had about this program, but the idea is the biologists saw a need for supporting people who wanted to bring research more into their classroom. And I really do think that this program is an ongoing annual program you can join each August. And there's probably some interest there, both for college level faculty, but individuals who are working at the high school level too, to kind of gain that type of experience. And so that's just one of the kind of more discipline specific things that the CUR organization is doing. But if you dig into the different discipline areas, you might find some other things as well. And so the last piece I kind of wanted to share before we kind of open up to take questions and kind of have more of a conversation is that I realize that there's two things going on here. It might be looking at the programs we're doing and saying, oh, there's a place for me there, or I know someone who could benefit from that, or I see something that you're doing that I could build something of my own. But some of it is just about making the connection with the people who are in CUR. Again, that same idea of building those connections and sharing resources over a more extended period of time. And so coming back to the structure of the organization, if you're trying to think about where could I make a connection? So like I mentioned, we do have a small national office staff, and then most of what we are doing is through volunteer leadership. And so the links here take you first to just who are those different volunteer leaders in the different areas Are you interested in contacting the physics division? Here's who you would talk to there. And then we have members, and we have members who are not necessarily in leadership, but are engaged in the organization. So if you want to find out if you're at an institution that has a membership and you didn't even realize it, right, here's our membership directory, or what are the schools in your state or your area that are involved. I believe I tried to look at this, but hard for me to see it without being in my own account. I think you can look and at least see who our member institutions are without actually having been a member. And then the other thing is to think about, is there a benefit to you or your institution considering a membership if you don't have one? And if all the things we're talking about sound really interesting to you, every fall we are putting up new ballots for those division representative positions. And so is maybe getting involved or engaged at that next level something that might be of interest to you or those that you work with. So I think I will stop sharing. And then I'm gonna let Amanda tell me how she wants to handle questions.
All right, wonderful. And I see we actually have had a couple new people join us since we started the first round of introductions. So I was gonna just welcome those people and let you all introduce yourselves if you didn't already. If you want to say like what state are you from, what academy are you affiliated with, and if you want to say why you showed up today, we'd love to meet you.
Hi guys, I'm Jen Wortham and I'm at the University of Tampa, but I'm also president of the Florida Academy of Sciences, and we need to spend some of the money from our endowment, and so we're always looking for opportunities to support faculty, students, and research. And so I thought this might be a good place to find that maybe we can come up with an initiative to support faculty or students going to your conferences and things like that.
Hey Amanda, hey Karen, this is Nat Draper from Virginia. I'm at the Virginia Academy of Science, Engineering, and Medicine. And I did put in a link. We actually just started a brand new undergraduate policy program. It's a pilot program and it was funded by a company that believes in emotional intelligence and developing the next generation of leaders. So we have 2 years of funding and you can see the students that we selected from 7 different universities. They'll be coming to Richmond for a week, and they'll be staying at a hotel right next to the General Assembly and meeting all sorts of cool people to learn science and policy.
Excellent. VJ, are you there? Okay. Well, if VJ wants to say hi, he can say hi. Great. Thank you, Karen. I'm hearing a lot of synergy here with what I know about what people are doing in their academies and in their own states. So I would welcome people's questions. We had a couple already in the chat. So Donna has asked, how many of your member institutions have connections with high schoolers? Do you all have any data about that?
So that's not something I can definitely tell you off the top of my head. My guess is it's really going to come individual by individual and their choice. So mine kind of came out of left field in that I was volunteering as a judge for our STEM fair at my high school and got involved in it. My guess is it's there in more places than it's not, but I don't know off the top of my head if it's there. But I think the thing is if there isn't already something there, but there's someone who is associated with CUR at a particular institution, the interest would be there. For me, it was a natural partnership in that I knew that these students are the high school teacher that I work with at NCUR, we presented about how the students who did the high school program felt more confident in doing research when they got to college. And so I think there's an interest there, and there was definitely an interest at that talk at NCUR of, oh, this is something maybe I should be thinking about doing. So can't tell you how much it is there, but I think the interest would be there if you can find the right individual.
Mm-hmm. That's great. It could be a complementary, to the program that we run for high school students is limited, to how many people can really participate in that. But I think knowing that high school students can also be welcome at NCUR is good to know. And it's at a different time of year. So that might actually work for some people who want to, travel or have funding to travel with high school students. VJ, I see you. Are you able to say hi and introduce yourself? Are you there?
Let me just say that VJ is with the Washington, D.C. Academy of
Okay.
Sciences, And I believe he's
Okay.
the Junior Academy. Correct.
Oh, great. Thank you so much. Okay, wonderful. All right. And you all can come off mute if you want to ask questions yourself. Nat, you put a question in the chat. I wonder if you want to.
Yeah. Yeah, so we VASM, we have not worked with any K through 12. We really don't have the manpower to do that yet, unless like we were able to find funding and add people. We're kind of a one-man show or a one-person show, which is me. So um anyway, I asked a little bit about funding when it comes to that. And then also I would love if you could put just in the chat a link to that Richmond event. Since I do live in Richmond, I'd love to attend and hear more about it.
All right, I just pulled it up because I saw that you had it in there. So it's in the chat now. And then if most of the information is going to be in that case about if you're trying to submit abstracts to present and everything, if you're interested in just bringing a group of students as opposed to having them submit and present, that may be a reach out to me or the national office so that we can make sure that we can make that connection happen too. There was a second part of that too. Or was that your question? Did I answer your question?
Also, I was just talking about, do you know any foundations that would, want to fund something like high school interactions with science and policy and that kind of stuff?
The policy part, I'm not so sure of. I know that at least for the school that I am working with for their projects, they've done a couple things. They have looked at some state funding in terms of just high school support state funding, but they've also, instead of foundations, they've found better that if they partner with colleges, and so they're partnering with colleges, or they're partnering with zoos, or they're partnering with like fish and wildlife. So they're finding other organizations that have resources. So most of the programs that they are doing are initiating with somebody externally is doing something that they can bring down into the school. And then if the college has that funding, in terms of actual grants to fund that, it's not something I know off the top of my head.
Karen.
Mm-hmm.
If folks have other questions, feel free to pop them in the chat or come off mute and ask your question yourself.
So this is Vijay from the Washington section. Sorry for it took a while for me to unmute myself and also get going. Three questions and discussion parts from the Junior Academy here in Washington. We have engaged with undergraduate research and high school research. So we have a history of about 30 years of doing peer reviews of high schools research at three different high schools that do research practicum. So they allow the students to leave high school in the junior year and spend a year with the mentor, where it could be a university, it could be at the federal lab that we have in Washington, D.C. And the students get to write a 90-page manuscript and we get to review them. And so we have been doing this for 30 plus years in DC. Undergraduate research, we used to host NSF-sponsored events in the DC area for undergraduate research. My recommendation is we all partner up with Sigma Xi and have our own activity for undergraduate research at the Sigma Xi annual meeting in New York, upstate New York in Niagara Falls.
Question. I'm trying to think if there's a question.
Thank you.
But let me add to that. I think the other way to think about it too. So Sigma Xi is a great place for partnership. It may be that it is thinking about bringing those types of students to NCUR, or is it thinking about, is there a place for, if you've got undergrads involved, it might be about thinking about having your organizations, I don't necessarily want to say sponsors at NCUR, but I think there's got to be there's some overlap there where it's having informational tables so that people can connect with you at those places, or having like I said, the National Conference on Undergraduate Research, while focused on the students presenting their research, there are what they call mentor-led presentations. That's what I had just done. So thinking about, are there programs or things that you guys are doing that other institutions or other places might benefit from hearing about and hearing about what you're doing? That might be another way to think about kind of making that cross connection as well.
My concerns here is that we all live in this Western cowboy-like mentality, not invented or not done here. But I've been to many, many universities through Sigma Xi. I went to Penn State. I went to University of Maryland and the Sigma Xi chapters. We do see freshman research called the FIRE program, where they insist on this. And then we go judge their senior capstone research programs at the universities. But the problem is to have a national clearinghouse like NCUR, I do not know what it would take. And again, it's what we see is overlaps on the fragmented science that research that happens. You have your community colleges, you have again a plethora of entities and guidance. Here in Washington, we have an easy place. The Washington Academy exists, the Junior Academy exists, and we work together, and we have spaces for using the spaces to engage our students. I do not know nationally how this would be. And Sigma Xi, I thought, would be a good place where we can encourage and engage. We have, I think, a social hour tomorrow, Thursday, with Jamie, and hopefully we can have a science cafe focused on undergraduate research.
Great.
And it looks like I'm just Googling, seeing that like Sigma Xi's big conference is in the fall and NCUR's big conference is in the spring. So for some people, the timing works better to go in the fall. For other people, might work better to go in the spring. And so knowing about both of those, Karen, as you mentioned, just overlapping and making sure we're sharing information, that's probably helpful. Dave, I see your hand up.
Thanks, Karen. It's a great introduction to CUR, but I have to admit I still have a CUR for Dummies question.
Okay.
You've mentioned that membership is that who are the members? The members are university institutions, yet there are all kinds of stakeholders like individuals, other types of organizations, and even undergraduates. So how does that all work together if the members are the universities? How do those other stakeholders have those connections?
So the way it works is so you can have an individual membership. So you could just be a faculty member or someone who supports undergraduate research in some other way at your institution. So Office of Undergraduate Research, or you're a dean for research. So you can have an individual membership. If your institution is a member, all that means is your institution has paid for anybody in your anybody at your institution to have that individual membership. So in the end, while we have systems and institutions that have memberships, they are doing that to provide that service for their faculty and their staff to be members. So in the end, the members are the individuals, because what that allows them to do is, I made it at the same institution have an English professor and a biologist who both are interested in undergraduate research. So the institution having that membership allows them to be involved, but those two individuals are going to engage with the organization in a very different way, and also differently than the way the administrators would. Technically, I don't think we right now have a student level of membership. The idea is that the organization is for the faculty and staff and administrators who support the undergraduates. We have programming that then supports those students, but we support the growth of the students by supporting the people who are making sure that they have the opportunities to do the research. That's a great question.
No, thanks. It's really helpful.
Philip.
Karen, I just want to make sure you're aware that the NAAS does have a formal partnership with Sigma Xi.
Okay. That makes sense. Go ahead. Who was that?
My question, actually, to sort of piggyback on Dave's question, I'm pretty sure I've heard from you before that the STR program is open to folks even if they are not members. but I wonder if you could clarify, like the MERIC program, is that one that people would have access to if they are individual members, or can people pay if they're not a member, or how does that work?
It is my recollection that in the past we have had people who are part of the MERIC network who are not members of CUR. And in fact, we spent a couple years partnering with a program I actually am not sure still happens. It's the Iraqta postdoc program that's helping faculty postdocs that want to become faculty members. And we heavily engaged postdocs in that program who weren't necessarily members of CUR, but we knew that they were starting to think about the teaching they might be doing moving forward. And so I don't think you have to be a member, because I'm pretty sure we have not we've had people who weren't members before. So. And I know I did look in terms of, well, I'm thinking of it because I double checked this, like all the CUR conversations, the different webinars and things like that. Those you have the option of, if you're a member, those are free. If you're a non-member, then you're paying piece by piece for those and may want to consider, if you're going to be engaged in that way, it may be worth paying for an individual membership. Can I tell you off the top of my head how much an individual membership costs? No.
Okay. That was actually one of my follow-up questions too. I know you have great resources and you do trainings and webinars.
Yes.
And I know some of those, obviously none of that is free, and so you all have memberships for a reason. But I am wondering, as we share your programs and promote the amazing things that you have available, are there things that people can take advantage of if they just want to sort of see what you do? Or yeah, are those webinars just the kind of thing that you could, sign up and pay 15, 20 bucks or something to be part of that conversation?
An individual 1-year membership is $103. And then we have what is called, so we do have a student membership. It's called an emerging mentor. So undergrads, grad students, postdocs that are in that pathway, that's a $74 a year membership. Again, this is where I suggest that sometimes people have institutional memberships and only a handful of people are aware that the institutional membership exists. Some of those are a little bit weird in that we have a price plan where only a handful of people can be members, and we have a price plan where like everybody at your institution can be members. And so that's worth looking into as well.
I wonder, when you were talking about the STR program and the Hill Day that happens as part of that. I'm wondering if other folks in states want to share whether you have anything analogous or pieces of that happening in your state. We have, we don't run it. The Academy of Science doesn't run it, but in Kentucky, there's a program called Posters at the Capitol, and they have research posters, not just science, but all disciplines from the public institutions. And it is meant for, to increase visibility for our legislators about the work that's happening in our public institutions. And they go, during the legislative season, session in the wintertime, and they go and they bring their posters. And I wonder if other states have something like that. Nat mentioned a thing that they're doing in Virginia. Wonder if other states have anything like that. Dave.
You're right, Amanda. We have something which we call the New Mexico Research Symposium. It's in the fall, and it's joint between NMAS and EPSCoR in the state, as well as the New Mexico Science Teachers Association, which is a partner periodically, not every year. And part of the event includes undergraduate and graduate poster competition and undergraduate and graduate oral presentations, and we provide awards for these. They're a fantastic opportunity for an undergraduate to give the first 10-minute talk they've ever given before. Not quite an elevator speech, but close. They do fantastic, and so this has been a really good partnership that we have that reaches that segment.
That's great. I love that EPSCoR is a partner with you. Yeah, we had a presentation like a couple years ago, I think, specifically about that because it's such a great model. Is there some presence also or some connection with your state legislature? Are there relationships there? Are they welcomed, or do people take research to the state legislators at all? It's part of that.
New Mexico Academy has lost our connections with state government, which is something that I'm focusing on during my presidential year, trying to claw that back. And we've made some progress in that we now have a board member who's on the public education department that liaises with us, and we really appreciate that. It's a start back. But as some of the other states do, we'd like to get back to, we did some advising this year on curriculum, and we'd like to get back to more of that, and then ultimately also advising the state at a much higher level. New Mexico is a small state, but we have a lot of very large institutions. We have 33 universities and community colleges and 3 national laboratories. So we'd like to be on that path. Won't happen in a day, but we're trying to go in that direction, Amanda.
That's great. Donna.
Thank you for the presentation, Karen. Really interesting and very complex organization organizationally. So I'm really glad to see you rising into leadership there. I can't help but think that maybe there's an opportunity moving it forward with similar kinds of organizations that have as part of their big part of their mission identifying and supporting and nurturing the next generation of scientific and engineering talent, the seed corn in a way. And given the dramatic changes that are happening at the national level right now, we can't lose the energy that all of us as adults are investing in supporting them, but maybe in new ways. And so I just can't help but think that there's an opportunity for organizations like ours to band together in some kind of a proposal to maybe a set of foundations to say, look, we're committed to supporting this next generation of talent, because if we don't, we're going to lose it. We're already losing ground very quickly. And so the way forward is to support these kids who we all know from our own experiences working with them are the best thing out there, right? So I just want to throw that out there. No solution, but just an idea to maybe start thinking about organizations like ours, like Sigma Xi, CUR, NAAS, maybe a few others that have this age group as their focus to start thinking about that pretty soon.
Do you have a vision for what that support program might look like, or what you might do if you had that support?
I think part of it is one, understanding like what each other's like think of it like a Venn diagram, maybe. Think of where we currently work, where there's intersection that can be expanded or amplified or strengthened. And maybe areas where we could work together on new things. Like, for example, like as Amanda was saying, I'm struck by the timing of the 2 conferences. Like CUR's big meeting is in the spring and Sigma Xi's is in the fall. Maybe, and then ours is in the winter. Maybe building some connections between those so that so that the students themselves can see a continuum of events and support and community building that begins for them in high school, instead of it being, X number of separate activities, but seeing a continuum for them.
I would like to throw another idea. I don't know how it will stick. The Washington Academy of Sciences was lucky that this Science and Technology Service started this a long time ago. So we piggybacked on it and got the national labs to be engaged. Could this happen if we have an undergraduate research symposium at the Regeneron National Science activity. So that would help, I guess, engage with the undergraduate research.
I'm just writing down everything you guys are saying so I can take it back.
I have a different point too. I don't want to leave BJ's point before I jump into mine because mine's a little bit in a different direction. Did anybody want to comment on that?
I guess I am interested to know more about how many undergrads or what's the landscape of undergraduates were in engaging with national laboratories. I don't know much about that. We don't have one in Kentucky, but I am curious to learn more about that, in as our research landscape.
Yeah.
And how are they being impacted, of course, is what we're all wondering too.
And I agree with Donna 100%. The undergraduate program that I'm starting this year, they are going to have one of the 5 days. They are going to shadow our Coves Fellowship, which is graduate students that are placed at state host offices. So, and then that night we're actually having a education celebration dinner at Dominion Energy, which is one of is our big energy provider. And we have the Secretary of Agriculture speaking to all the students about research and also science and policy and how it's important to do that. But I guess what I wanted to say about Donna is last week I pitched an idea to a foundation recently, and I brought with me the Science Magazine article about National Science Foundation had 2,100 graduate students funded last year, and this year the National Science Foundation cut it to 1,000. They cut it by 51%. So that's 51% students not getting a chance to do a fellowship program after they've gotten their master's degree or their PhD. And my daughter was actually one of them. She's working on her PhD in Minnesota. And so anyway, I brought that to them, and it was they were very unaware of that. And I think that information is just changing so fast right now. And I wonder, Donna, to your point, is there some way where we can come together and find some funding for, fellowships now that there is a deficit that's going to happen? We have 21 Coves Fellows this year. I can see that going to 12 next year because of the reduced funding that and we had 50 applicants. We'll have 60 applicants next year fighting for 12 spots, probably. Something like that is if I was to guess. So anyway, but I do see the undergraduate program, like these undergraduates we have this year, I see them in 2-3 years, applying to our graduate program for fellowship. And I do see there's a big connection there that we all could benefit from, not just our individual states.
Yep. Yeah, I think the things you guys are talking about are like a natural extension from the types of things I know CUR is doing right now in terms of advocacy, which is knowing that our voice isn't going to be enough, but then when statements or responses to policy are being made right now, we are intentionally working with other nonprofits and other organizations to put policy statements and things out there where multiple voices are going to have a bigger impact. And taking that the next step of it's not just about putting our words and our ideas out there, but trying to take it to that next level and look at where our programs could come together and we could do some offerings together. But just this idea too of knowing the fuller landscape of opportunity for the students. So, I know what we do, and I'm hearing some of the things you guys do, but knowing that if I were the student trying to find what those opportunities are, just that bigger picture of across what's going on.
Yeah, and that the adults out there are supporting them.
Yes.
Yeah, interested to hear from some of you who haven't jumped in here yet. If you want to share anything of what's going on in your state or ideas this has given you. Curious to hear from other states: Illinois, Florida, New Jersey, Connecticut. Philip.
Karen, this is Philip. It does seem that there's a natural pipeline of students from the high school students who go to AJAS to CUR. Would you ever be willing to speak to the AJAS high school students about their opportunities to then participate in CUR as the next step in their education? There's just such a natural handoff there.
I think so, definitely. Right. And you have the benefit right now that you've got someone in STEM who's also in leadership in our organization, which isn't always the case of where we are. And so now is even better time for me and from some of the people that are around me to do those types of conversations. I'd be happy to do it. Just coming from just seeing it firsthand from a small number of students who are aware, and I'm, the more that we can get them thinking about it and hitting a broader population, absolutely.
Are you or any members of your organization coming to the AAAS annual conference in February of 2026?
I don't know, but I can find out.
Because the NAS AJAS annual meeting always coincides with the AAAS annual meeting. And if any of your CUR people would be available, there are several opportunities that CUR could come to present in front of the entire group of high school students at AJAS.
Okay.
And following up on that, Philip, we also have a poster session for all of these, for the AJAS cohort, which is about 150 most amazing kids you ever want to meet. And they actually give their poster, give formal poster presentations, and it is the biggest shot in the arm. So if you wanted to see a potential pool of future CUR students, it's right there.
Yeah.
High school students.
Yeah.
I'm also wondering if that even didn't work out, Karen, I think you have webinars, trainings, things that maybe are targeted to undergraduates that would be like navigational assistance. How do you find your way into research as an undergraduate if that isn't something that is obvious or, easy to find? So that is also something that we could hook people up with, who we have contact for, right? As you go off to college, wherever that is, here are some tips or ideas for you as you navigate that next step.
Yes. We definitely have, so we have a page of it. I'll see if I can pull it up and put it in there of their undergraduate student resources, but in reality, a lot of those are how to get started in research, which is that first piece of like, who do I go talk to when I get to campus and get engaged? And it comes back to, I do think you can provide that information, but the more they've done something in high school, it makes it easy. That's what at least the students I've talked to, it makes it easier for them. They were less afraid to go talk to a faculty member because they've had the confidence of, I have done something that is research before. And so that in and of itself was enough to make them feel a little more confident in having that conversation. Or it was, the other point to bring up is that when they're in an intro lab course or they're in something and they're just doing a little bit better because they've had some previous experience. And so they get seen a little bit more easily.
Well, Karen, there is, as I say, a perfect pipeline from AJAS to CUR. And for example, earlier this year in February 2025 in Boston, we had about 161 of the top high school research projects from 25 states in the United States all come together in Boston to present their research, not only presenting their research to each other, but also presenting it in the form of a poster session right out on the floor of AAAS. So all the AJAS students, even though they're high school students, are already quite sophisticated research mentalities. You'll be amazed.
Yeah.
Yeah, and actually that's was on my mind too, Philip. Like for those students, it's going to be a lot less hard
Yeah.
to get streamlined into that when they get to undergraduate level. But I'm thinking a lot about our members across the country, like Illinois, for example. Laura, I talked to your past president, I think, recently, and I don't think you all sent students to junior academy, but I know that you have board members and leaders who are at all the institutions like you are, and you're probably, you know, trying to mentor students and get them involved in undergraduate research. And so there's a lot that we can offer our membership much more broadly instead of just the 100 or so, you know, high school
Yeah.
students, right? But like this is something that really is a resource. And looks like Dan Poole dropped off, but he's in Utah, and same with them. They don't send high school students to our junior academy, but you know, they are members in higher education, and I think have so much to gain from, you know, the amazing resources that you all have. So I don't
Well,
know,
and
Laura,
that's
if you want to say anything about what you're doing, or
I,
Karen.
I actually have to go, speaking of student faculty research, this is our launch week for the summer session. So two things. One is we have had students go in the past, but we don't have we don't have a budget to be able to afford that. What has happened is we've had students who really wanted to go, and we have sponsored them, but they have to basically pay for that and make the arrangements. I will say though that we have in recent years forged a much closer connection between the State Academy of Science and our ISAS and IJAS. There was a sort of longstanding kind of personality dispute, and that is healing over, which is great. So maybe there'll be the future for that as well. So, and I'm sorry I have to go, but thank you so much for this.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
And welcome back, Hallie. I don't know if you have any burning questions that you want to make sure we get to today too.
I'm trying to absorb things today, but I'm glad to hear. It sounds like the discussion has been going really well, and there's been some mutual learning happening. Gonna have to listen to the recording and hope others that weren't able to attend are able to. So, you think you have colleagues that weren't able to be here that might enjoy the presentation? We put the recording online at the end too, so hopefully they can join us asynchronously.
Yes, absolutely. I think the opportunity, as Donna mentioned, and Nat, that, you know, to educate foundations about how deep these cuts are right now and how they're impacting not just postdocs, not just graduate students, but they really are like having systemic impact all the way down the pathway. I think that's a huge opportunity. It's got my wheels turning a little bit about partnerships. Yeah, between academies and CUR, and really taking stock of that landscape and maybe opportunities in the private sector, not to restore everything that we've lost, but to really help stem, you know, cut the losses a little bit.
Well, and I think partnership allows us to not each kind of be in our own silos trying to solve the problem, and then not fighting over the same money or resources, and actually kind of partnering together and thinking about what are the things that we could pull our resources and our ability to do.
Yeah, and I do think there's a gap between undergraduates and graduate programs at my universities here in Virginia. I don't know if they really talk as much as they should about opportunities. Just my feeling of meeting my undergraduate students in the Science and Up program, I think they're really going to benefit from the program, but I also think they're going to benefit from meeting these graduate fellows and hearing, you know, what opportunities they went through and where they are now, and you know, where they see their future. And so I'm really excited about that part of it, and learning, you know, but yeah, I think a partnership, you know, to find you know, additional funds to jump into different things like high school, and to jump into different types of research opportunities is important.
Hallie, go ahead.
I'm kind of going to disrupt the flow. So if anyone else had anything to say that was more on topic for what Nat was saying. Okay. Seeing no one. I don't know if this has come up yet, but I think a lot about how big your network is of undergraduate researchers and how they're coming from everywhere. Probably not from every high school, but from a lot of them, and probably many more than we have represented through AJS. So it makes me wonder, because as an undergrad, I was very interested in, when I was doing research, sharing what I was doing with others and telling them why what I was doing was so cool. And I would have been really happy to talk to people that were interested in science at my high school about it, like a 1 hour thing or a half an hour like engagement session, and then with like a network component afterward. I don't know what it would look like. My thought is, though, that that would be an interesting way to both get undergraduate researchers to talk about their work and to share something that they love, but also for high schools that frankly don't have the resources to engage students very effectively in sort of our pipeline, might be able to at least increase interest that could eventually then lead to, a spark that could become involvement in the broader program. This is very like nascent, right? Like that would be a long-term thing. Just a thought about that the network and the power you really have, I think, through having a lot of individuals engaged. And it's mutually beneficial, I think, skill building for undergrad, talking about what they're doing and honing that science communication muscle, which I think is so important.
I think that gets back to that same idea that the undergrads need to be hearing more from the grad students in that level about what that experience in that piece looks like.
That made me think of it.
And then, but I think you're right, because I have had the opportunity, like I said, to work with my local high school and help them build a program. But a lot of the schools, even in my area, don't have the resources or the ability to do what that high school is able to do. Or they might not have the alum that, well, they may. Like, so thinking about those alum networks of coming back and just talking about where I am now, but doing it as an undergrad as opposed to once you're out there in the career field. I think that's a great possible opportunity there, and trying to get us thinking a little bit about using those. We are often very focused, at least in our organization, on what the faculty are doing to support the undergraduate students, or what the faculty are doing to help bridge with the high schools, but not really had thought about that kind of using the undergrads in that way. We're not using them, but having them gain skills by supporting those students, especially at schools where we can't give them if we can't give them the financial or resource support, we could give them the knowledge support.
Engaging them.
We did a program in Kentucky just a couple weeks ago. We kind of threw it together because we are like, perpetually trying to reach more high school students and high school teachers with our programming, but we put together a panel of undergraduates to talk about their pathways, basically. And some of them had really like unusual, the unexpected ways of like, how did I end up being a scientist, as an undergraduate? And we put that on. It was during the school day, so some science teachers actually plugged in and zoomed, to their class. And that was, I think, really well received. Like, we've done an in-person panel like that at our annual meeting as well for high school students. And I think it's very well received. I think that near peer conversation is sometimes much more valuable for high school students, than listening to old people. professional scientists, talk about research. Like, I think having those undergraduates say like, well, I took a gap year, or I came in as a history major, or, I didn't think I could ever be a scientist, but I'm, in community college and I'm loving my geology class, like those are wonderful stories, I think, for all of us in the scientific community to like hear and register and to see what scientists look like. It really does blow up a lot of stereotypes when we have done it. And I've really enjoyed that a lot. I think there's just so many wonderful surprises that come out of those conversations. So yeah, how do you systematize that, institutionalize it? But I mean, it's kind of a template, right? It doesn't cost a lot to put that together if you do it like a virtual panel, or if it's part of an annual meeting, which most academies do. Yeah, I think those are fun things to put together. All right, well, if folks don't have any more questions, we can end early. I do want to mention that I put in the chat a couple times, but thank you very much to the Gordon and Betty Moore Foundation, who is supporting us to do this Academy Chat and other capacity building work. Our states right now have access to coaching calls and are getting 2 coaching calls with Hallie and her colleague Rachel, who are amazing coaches and strategists and resource folks for our academies. So we're in the process of doing that right now, thanks to the support that we have from that foundation. I put the email in the chat there, admin@academiesofscience.org, if you want to schedule those calls and you haven't done that yet. We also want to know your feedback about this session and ideas for future sessions. So there's a survey link in here if you would help us out by telling us what you think or what more you would like us to share as part of this series. So thank you for all of that. And Karen, thank you so much for your amazing presentation. We would love to have that slide deck that we can put on the website with your with the recording from this session. And
I think I have it.
Yeah, let me.
Okay, you already have
Yes,
it. Great.
I sent it, and I don't think I've
Excellent.
changed it since then. So you should be good to just use that.
Excellent. And it sounds like we want to be back in touch with you to see whether there are, next steps in terms of partnership opportunities, proposal writing, anything like that. So
yes, please do. Yeah, I've got a bunch of notes, and I'm going to kind of try and share them back with who I think will be the right fit for some of these ideas. But please be in touch. And
yeah,
there's a lot of great things I think we could be doing together. So
there really are. Yeah, thank you so much for your time, and thank you all for participating today. Hope to see you at future chats. I think in June. Hallie, do you know what the next couple programs are that you want to plug those? Off the top of your head?
We'll be talking a little bit about how you as an individual can engage in science policy, and then we may have Academy talking about strategic planning.
Strategic planning, yes, great. Yeah, which we've also funded for strategic plans this year, thanks to that Gordon and Betty Moore Foundation funding. So look forward to digging into that for the benefit of all the academies to learn about strategic planning. All right, well, if you haven't wrapped up your semester yet, y'all have a great end of the semester. If you have, then have a great beginning of your summer vacation, kind of. And hope to see you back in June. Thank you.
Thanks, Amanda.
Thanks all.